Good morning. Thank you so much. My name is Betsy Corcoran, and I'm co-founder and CEO of EdSurge. Quick raise of hands. How many know what EdSurge is? Thank you. You warm my heart. So we started EdSurge in 2011. I had spent more than 25 years as a technology reporter for many, many other publications, the Washington Post and Forbes and Scientific American. And we started EdSurge as a newsletter, but very quickly realized that we had a much broader goal in mind, which came in part from those 25 years of studying and watching technology, which is, and you know this so much better than I do, that every piece of technology has a set of assumptions that are built into that technology. And that means that not every technology is going to serve every purpose. And so the broader mission that EdSurge is on is to figure out how to help schools find the right technology for the mission that they have, for the students they have, for the infrastructure they have, for the requirements they have. And that's what we're about. And we do this in a collection of different ways. We do it through writing stories, through telling your stories, through supporting you, telling your stories. I was talking with Ned from Vermont. Where are you? You were here a few minutes ago, who is one of our 50 States writers. So we do it through telling stories. We do it through a series of conferences and summits, which I think many of you have attended. And we're doing it through a program that we call Concierge. So I'm here today with a couple of my colleagues, Leonard Medlock, right there, Christina Quattrochi, and Tyler McNally, who's here somewhere, I think. And what we hope to do in this session are a couple of things. Number one is we want to talk about why you choose technology, the whole process of needs assessment. We were sitting in on the procurement conversation, and so much of the conversation has to do with what are the needs? What do you start with? What's the structured process that you can use to think about what the needs are that you're trying to solve? And then the second part is a search process. Over the last 5 years, we've built up an index of 1,600 education technology tools. We share some of that information publicly. We have more information that companies have shared with us that they're not comfortable disclosing to everyone, but they have disclosed it to us. We use that to help us think about what are the collections of tools and what are some of the implications behind those tools. And so Leonard is actually I'm going to turn the mic over to Leonard. He's our expert on this process. He's going to take us through some thoughts about needs identification. And he will also share with us some ideas about how to think about the tools that are here at GSV and maybe how you can create a little bit of a roadmap to guide the next couple of days that you have here. So please join me in saying hello to Leonard.
Okay. Good morning. So fortunately, last night we found out that we would not have a slide projector this morning. But that's okay because you have actually an all-star cast. You have our CEO, our director of research, and our president here to individually facilitate a lot of the activities that we were going to do on the slides. So I'm really happy to see a full group of people. As Betsy talked about, we're going to basically use this session to show you how our Edx Election Framework process works and actually use that process to help you whittle down the 350 odd companies that are represented here at ASU GSV into your very own personalized shortlist. So you can actually focus your conversations and your interactions over the next 2.5 days. Before we get into those activities, I actually want to invite up I'm going to let her keep going. I'll talk for you, Christina. Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. She's the best. And so, one reason, and I heard this in some of our conversations earlier today, I was kind of listening in around the different school district conversations. One thing we always talk about at EdSurge is you have to understand that products are built with assumptions. So if you think about curriculum, textbooks, for example, Zoom back 20 years, you have your textbooks in the classroom. Every textbook has its own set of assumptions, kind of its own organization. Generally, there's a table of contents. Then you get to a chapter. There's a summary. There's some content. There's some checking for understanding. Then there's some summative assessment. Then you move to the next chapter. And then maybe if it's a little bit more scaffolded, you also have worksheets and workbooks and all these other artifacts surrounding that textbook that represent some instructional experience for the learner. But if you think about how technology works, and you all can tell me, what happened when your textbooks weren't sufficient? What did you do with them? You just throw them in the back of the room, right? I've walked into thousands of classrooms where there's stacks of textbooks at the back of the room because it's okay, they just don't work. But when you think about technology, kind of the stakes are a little bit different. You can't just set a piece of technology in the back of the room. Kind of when you turn it on, especially depending on your instructional model, if it's your blended learning model, it's very important that the technology supports your instructional model. So just like with those textbooks, technology developers or EdTech developers are making their products with a ton of assumptions in mind. What's the scope and sequence of work? What's the instructional pace look like? What is the particular relevance of the content? What are the standards alignments, et cetera, et cetera. And what you get is a shiny screen with beautiful graphics and something that helps you. So what we want to talk about today really is how do you align your assumptions around what teaching and learning looks like in your districts with these assumptions that product developers are making as they build those products. And the way we're going to go about that is by walking through our Edx Election Framework. So there's actually a bit.ly you can access if you do want to see the slides as I talk. It's bit.ly/ASU-GSV-select. Hyphen, I'm sorry, dash. I'm an engineer, so like hyphens don't register in my head. ASU-GSV-select, SELECT. Should take you to a Google presentation for you to follow along. bit.ly/ASU-GSV-select. So I really want to just quickly walk you through our Edx Election Framework, and then what we're going to do is maybe separate into quadrants in the room, and myself and Christina and Betsy and Tyler will facilitate smaller group discussions to actually walk you through a very lightweight version of this framework in order to arrive at your own short list of products for ASU GSV. For us, it all starts with, what's your theory of learning? And that's simply saying, how do your students learn best? How do your teachers teach best? And what supports do they need to be successful in how they teach and or learn best? And then, of course, inside of that theory of learning is whatever mission critical or vision critical pieces of information you want to add to it. And the thing about the theory of learning is it's very straightforward. It's already what you use to determine bell schedules, how you hire staff, how you develop curriculum. So we feel like technology should start with the exact same question. What's your theory of learning? That's kind of one piece of your foundation. The next piece is a little bit more abstract. It's what we call the approach to technology. And when we built this selection framework, we basically were leaning upon 5 years of writing about innovative school systems and school districts, tons of professional development work that we've covered, working with tons of school districts within EdSurge, as well as great research partners like SRI International and WestEd. And with the approach to technology, basically we're taking a stance and saying that the three things that technology can most affect are instructional pace, teacher control and guidance, and student agency. Everything else is kind of outside of the technology, but you can really affect those three things in the classroom or in the learning environment. Again, instructional pace, teacher control and guidance, and student agency. So as you're going through your approach to technology, you can imagine once you think about how your students learn best, how your teachers teach best, and what supports need to be in place, you can dive a little bit deeper to think about, well, how do we want to change these three variables as a result of using technology at high fidelity? And those two things, your theory of learning and your approach to technology, essentially set a strong foundation upon which you can then go into very detailed needs assessment for specific instructional needs. So at that level, you can imagine, and I won't go too deep into this because there's 35 questions, I think, to go through. But essentially, you're thinking about what's your pain point? How are you currently solving it, if at all? What's your ideal approach? And then again, under that ideal approach, returning to the areas under your theory of learning. What is the role of teachers? What is the role of students? What is the role of data? What are hardware constraints? What are technology constraints? What are interoperability considerations if it's at the district level? So on and so forth. And really going all the way down to, do I have a plan if I had this technology to actually roll it out and evaluate it? And once you have that instructional need in place, that's actually where EdSurge's expertise really comes into play. Because as Betsy mentioned, we have an index with over 2,000 products. We have really robust internal tools where we can query. And we also have a ton of non-public facing data about these companies. So we can take all of that information, apply a set of filters to our database and say, hey, here are the 10 or 15 products that you should really look into and save you a lot of time. Otherwise you'd be looking through thousands of products. I think in our index we have 270 K through 4 math tools. So if you're looking for a way for your English language learners in elementary school to practice fractions, that can be quite a headache. We'll try to get you to that list of 10 or 15 really, really quickly. And then the rest of the framework really goes, the onus goes back to you and your organization around how do you take that short list, how do you decide which products to move forward with, and then how do you socialize that idea in terms of gaining teacher buy-in, making sure you consider potential trade-offs, and then finally, how do you commit and iterate? The framework is represented as a pyramid, but by no means is it a pyramid, it's actually a circle. I think Nicole made an excellent observation earlier that the technology is constantly changing, so you're never really done, you're just at a certain point. So it's an iterative cycle, and with that, as I said, we're gonna use a very lightweight version of this framework in order to whittle down these 300 or so companies at ASU GSV to your own list of 10 or 15 companies that you really want to be intentional about over the next 2.5 days. So with that, I believe what we're going to do is split the room into 4 quadrants. And it's already roughly split. So back there, I think Christina will maybe take the corner right there. Betsy will facilitate here. Tyler, where are you at, Tyler? Oh, you're so sneaky. No, it's just, we're EdSurge. We don't do all that stuff, man. Tyler will be right there, and because I'm close, I'll be right here. And so I asked you to separate. You should see some artifacts on your desk. You should see a large 11 by 17 sheet, as well as a smaller 8.5 by 11 sheet. There may be too few. If you do not have one, I would still ask you to participate, and we can certainly get more printed and get you one before the end of the day. Yes?
So how are you curating the 2,000 resources that you have? I'm just
Sure.
curious just based on
So the question was, how do we curate the 2,000 resources on our site? And so so the framework actually to us is a set of filters. It's almost like a translation game for us. We start your theory of learning. So depending on how you think students learn best, we may or may not automatically get rid of all the adaptive products because they may not apply based on your theory of learning.
No, I understand that. I get the filter.
How do we build a list of 2,000? So the companies come to us. They fill out a 5-page survey. I think about 30% of that information is actually public facing, but they give us everything from videos to sample reports to reference customers to case studies to pricing, all across the board. No. Any other questions?
But if you want to do it once, since we don't have slides, just do it once over lightly.
Sure. Nope, might be over. There's one. You can tell we talk about this stuff all day because I don't need any slides. I can just talk about this forever. So just to give you a quick explanation of the artifacts on your tables, and again, our facilitators will talk about this more. This sheet here is 4 graphs. Looks pretty plain, a few Keynesian planes if we have any mathematicians in here. And essentially what we're looking at on the right-hand column is the approach to technology and the theory of learning. and then across the top, thinking about teachers and thinking about students. And what you'll do in your small group discussions is really think about what's the relationship between the categories of tools that are here at ASU GSV and the potential impact on teachers, teacher practices, the potential impact on student outcomes, and your district's readiness to support those type of tools. And that'll kind of be a very lightweight example or simulation of the diagnostic we go through when we're thinking about our theory of learning. And then secondly, also under facilitation, so you'll have time for clarifying questions, is you'll think about the quality of instruction, so thinking about from the teacher's point of view, the quality of learning, thinking about the learner's point of view, and then how willing or how ready or how much can your district provide teacher autonomy and student agency. And again, there are no right or wrong answers. The idea is to really frame your thinking so that you know what kind of questions to ask of these companies as you go throughout the rest of the conference. And then here is literally of the 360-something companies, about 105 specific K-12 instructional tools. They're grouped by large categories, front and back, as well as major features and functionality for easy, quick reference. And again, we'll go through an activity to really help you meaningfully think about how to go through this and understand what is the short list of tools that you want to explore further. It is not on our website. Well, actually, it is on our website. It's our product index. So if you notice, there's parentheses after every company. Just because there's not a sheet of paper big enough to show all the data we have on companies, I put in parentheses the number of additional data points we have on each company. But we tried to pull out the ones that would be pertinent for this group. And that's edsurge.com/products, also free. So just take maybe 1 or 2 minutes for us to separate into our corners. We're kind of already a full room, so I think it's just turning inward to your corner, and then we'll start from there. Any questions? Everyone good? Great. All right. So I know that you're having really rich conversation right now. I've been told that we're on a stopwatch, and so I have to pull you back front and center. But I hope some of these questions, I know people can't even get past the first graph because just thinking about something like what categories of tool has the highest impact on teacher practices is an all-day or a week-long conversation. But if you want to go through all 4 of these graphs, it's just a really great thought experiment for you to think about what's the relationship between EdTech tools and kind of these higher level components like teacher practices or student outcomes or student agency or teacher autonomy. And finally, if you would like, we have a handy cheat sheet here. You can fold it in half like a booklet if you want. And if you notice on this front page, right next to the EdSurge Concierge logo, you see a little box that says pain point, currently working, and ideal approach. You have some highlighters on your table, or you should. And if you want to assign each one of those categories a certain highlighter color, then you can go through for the categories of tools that are important to you and actually highlight the columns that matter. So you can go a level deeper and say that, oh, for communication and collaboration, I'm really looking at things that have learning analytics and are for teachers. Or for curriculum tools, I really want to focus on things that are standards aligned. Or you can say, we're really good at standards alignment and we're really bad at game-based learning, so let me focus my intent there. So feel free, as we wrap up, to take some highlighters with you and actually go through this and highlight those columns that make sense. That would kind of be the last step of creating your own cheat sheet and whittling down to those true 10 or 15 companies that matter the most. And then I really want to just briefly speak on the concierge process. What we do is we walk school or district administrators through a 45-minute diagnostic. It's about 50-odd questions that dive through a lot of these questions in a much deeper level. It's primarily based off some research from SIR International. And once we have this needs diagnostic, which gets your theory of learning, your approach to technology, and that specific instructional need, we package all this information up neatly. We extract those filters, kind of the same way you're doing now with this worksheet, and we apply it to our database of 2,000 products to generate a short list of tools that could potentially solve that need. Then the next thing we do is we take out all of your personally identifiable information because we've created this really rich need profile. And we go to all the companies on the list and we say, hey, are you a good fit? And they don't know who you are, so they can't bug you or cold call you or anything like that. And some of them say, yeah, we're a great fit. And we say, great. Well, for a small fee, you can submit videos, customer references, sample data reports, demo accounts, any number of things to bolster the information we already have about you on our website, because we're going to give you that information regardless of if the company wants to participate or not. Then we gather all the information back, we bundle it up, we give it to you. You have 10 or 15 companies with some minimum amount of information that's from our product index, and then in some cases for the companies who feel they're an excellent fit for your instructional need, some additional information in terms of how that product works. And the only thing we ask from you is that you give structured feedback to those companies so that they know what does or does not resonate. However, if you're not interested in any of the companies, you don't have any obligation to connect with them. And for the ones you do want to connect with, we facilitate that introduction and let you move through your current procurement process. And so for us, it's all about the efficient discovery and selection of tools. Everything we've talked about, I think if you look on the back of this worksheet, everything we've talked about is on our website. We have 14 videos that walk through all the content. We have a playbook that walks through all of these questions and more. We're not trying to hold on to our needs diagnostic. Anyone can administer it. Where we really excel is in making the process expedient and efficient and accurate, because that's the information that we have. So I'll be around, Christina's around, Tyler's around, Betsy's around. We're happy to talk more about concierge, but I do want to respect the organizers and get off stage. So thank you.